Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon. I think we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Jan Duchek, and I am the director of Cornerstone, which is our student learning center that you're going to hear more about. So I'm here in that capacity this afternoon, and I'm also here in the capacity as a professor. So I'm a professor in the Department of Psychological and Brain Sciences. I teach introductory psychology. Are any of your students taking introductory psychology this semester? That's wonderful. I will see them. I'm also an instructor for Introduction to Mind-Brain Behavior as well, and I coordinate the Mind-Brain Behavior program. I teach other courses as well in the psychology department. So I'm here in the capacity as the director of the Student Learning Center, one of our academic resources. I am here in the capacity of a faculty member who teaches a lot of courses and who teaches introductory psychology. This fall we'll have typically between 500 and 600 students. It's two different sections, but it's a very large class. The course that I teach, Introduction to Mind-Brain Behavior, is a freshman course, freshman only. Introductory psychology in the fall, particularly in the fall, there's a lot of incoming freshmen in that course as well. I've been doing this, I hate to say it, but over 30 years. I know you probably think I started when I was age 10, maybe, but I've been doing it for a long time. So I've been teaching and talking to freshmen for a long time. And so I'm joined by my colleagues, Dr. Rob Patterson, who will talk about the Writing Center, and Dr. Jay Sriram, who will be talking more about our Student Learning Center. But what I want to do is I want to start with you, and I want to just maybe talk about some general tips for helping your student succeed academically from afar. That from afar is kind of the operative word here. I will also tell you that I am a parent. I'm a parent of two grown children. Well, I guess they're always your children, aren't they? I can't seem to kind of get rid of them. 28 and 35. And this is a true story, literally. Like, well, I don't have noon today, the 35-year-old calls me and says to me, "Mom, I think like there's a mouse in our house." And I'm like, you know, like, did I not give birth to you 35 years ago? Seriously? You know, can you not figure this out? I am not an exterminator, you know, figure something out. So anyway, so, and also Rob and Jay are parents of young children as well, so we're all kind of in this together. Go ahead, Jay, thanks. So let's talk a little bit about sort of what it's like coming here to Washington University. Some tips. The first tip that I have for you is the idea of validating your students' experiences and normalizing those at the same time. So it's possible. May not happen for everybody, right? But it's possible that your student may call you and be upset, especially during these first few weeks, for example. And I think it's really important that you validate those feelings, that you understand, you know, saying things like, you know, I understand that you're upset. I can hear you're upset. I can hear that you're anxious. I understand that. But then at the same time to normalize that experience and to say, but it's absolutely normal that you feel like this. And you are not the only person who feels like this. And even though the peers around you may act like they don't feel like this, but believe me, they feel like this as well, that this is normal to feel like this, and you know, it's going to be okay. You know, just keep at it, you're going to be okay. It's important to remember that this is really a time of transition, right? I mean, you've transitioned your children through lots of things, right? I mean, maybe from daycare to preschool to kindergarten to middle school to high school, and now it's to college, right? And if you're like me as a parent of these older kids, you know, the next transition is please leave me alone and live your own lives. But anyway. So it's a time of transition. This may be, again, it's not necessarily the case, but it may be the first time that your student didn't do well on an exam or didn't do well on a paper, didn't get an A on everything that they tried the first time. It's interesting that the recipe for success in high school is not the same as the recipe for success in college. And so when you think about it, there's new expectations. There are new ways of studying. There are new ways of managing their time. When you think about it in high school, a lot of their time is managed for them. You're not here. You do have to leave. Actually, does everybody understand? Okay. Y'all have to leave. I'm sorry. And so, you're not here to manage them anymore. So there's a lot of transition. But again, it's typical transition, and they will be fine. I think also another thing that I want to leave you with is this notion of promoting a growth mindset. And if you could go to the next slide, Jay, thanks. The idea of a growth mindset is the notion that our abilities and our intelligence is not fixed, but it's malleable. It changes. And so these are some of the notions of a growth mindset, is that intelligence can be developed to embrace challenges. Yes, we all make mistakes. Every one of us in this room has made a mistake. Everyone in this room has failed at something, right? But you just sort of pick yourself up and you learn from those mistakes. And I think sort of getting that message over and over to your students is really an important one, that it's okay not to do well on some things because you learn from that and you figure things out and then you move forward. You can go to the next one. And then the next one. The important point is to really encourage your student to utilize resources, and both of my colleagues are going to talk about two of the primary academic resources that we have here at WashU. There are a number of resources, and one of the best resources for students is each other. And so we really, really try to promote a collaborative learning community here at the university. Again, I've been doing this a long time here at WashU. I came to WashU in 1985, and I can tell you over these 32 years, this really is not a competitive place for students. It really is a supportive place, and so they really should utilize their peers. And so oftentimes when I have a student who comes to my office and will say, I sort of feel like I don't belong. It seems like everybody else knows more than I do. And of course, that's not the case, right? That maybe the person next to you knows more about X, but you know more about Y. And rather than thinking about, this person next to me knows more than I do, but maybe they know more about X than you do. I'm not sure that's even the case, but you know more about Y. And why don't you utilize this individual as a resource to help you to learn? So we really are about collaborative learning. And so I always tell students when they come in and they haven't done well on an exam, one of the first things I say to you is tell me how you study, and we talk about the way that they study. And then I always ask them, do you study by yourself? And if they answer yes to that question, I'll say, why do you do that? Well, I've always done it that way. Well, try studying with somebody else. Get somebody else in class. Form a study group. Learn from each other. Help each other. Another resource, believe it or not, are the faculty. I don't know why students don't seem to understand that. There are not robots or monkeys teaching your students courses. There are people, there are faculty who teach these courses, such as myself. And I cannot tell you how many office hours I spend sitting by myself. Because, actually, I guess I should, maybe it's something about me. I never really thought about that, so I just said that. Perhaps it's me. But a lot of hours I spend by myself, especially I spend those time by myself before exams. Now, I'll tell you, after exams, students come in to see me, right? And that's wonderful as well, because we kind of talk about reworking things. But really, to utilize resources, come and talk to us. I am not at all a scary person. nor any of my colleagues. So really, push them, make them come and talk to us and get to know us. We all have office hours, our doors are open. We would not be in the business of teaching if we did not like students, right? So this is what we do. This is what we like to do. In every course, or in many courses, there are assistants to instructors who are peers or even near peers, such as graduate students, utilize those sorts of resources. We have a lot of, and Jay will talk more about this, we have a lot of resources that are embedded in courses. So for example, if any of your students are taking chemistry, anybody taking chemistry, or potentially taking calculus, for example, there's embedded into those courses something referred to as peer-led team learning that, again, Jay can talk about more, and especially if you have questions, to really take advantage of the structures that are provided within the courses. And then finally, there are, not finally, but there are advisors as well, right? So every one of your students who comes to the university is immediately assigned a four-year advisor. And that individual, too, can be helpful. There are a lot of resources for your students to take advantage of. One last thing that I want to say to you is, I'll tell you sort of a quick story. Again, because I teach freshmen, and especially the mind-brain behavior course is all freshmen, and it's, again, it's a transition. It's different for them. It's a different kind of course. We don't even have a textbook for the course. We have them anybody ever read Blink by Malcolm Gladwell? That's one of our textbooks for the course. We expect them to be able to grasp material pretty quickly about the mind, brain, and behavior and kind of integrate that information. And it's different, right? It's not rote memorization. So this is really a true story. A few years ago, I call them mind-brainers. A mind-brainer came into my office after the first exam, and he had failed the first exam. And he came in to talk to me about that. So we looked over his exam, and we talked about, what he did wrong, et cetera, what he did right as well. And so after we looked over the exam, I said to him, so what do you think? What's the next step? What are we going to do here? And he looked at me, and he said, this isn't high school anymore, is it? I said, nope. He said, I really got to pick up my game, don't I? I said, yep. He said, you like expect me to understand this material, not just memorize it, right? I said, yep. He said, I can't study the night before the exam and expect to do well in your course, can I? I said, nope. I mean, the conversation, all I did was say, yep, nope, yep, nope, yep, nope, the whole time, and then at the end of the it wasn't a conversation, at the end of his sort of dissertation, he looked at me, and he just was quiet for about 15 seconds, and I thought, my goodness, is he having a stroke? What's going on here? And then after 15 seconds, he just looks at me, and he just shakes his head, and he says, I got it. And he got up and walked out of my room. And the next exam, he got an A, and the exam after that, an A, and on his papers, he's got A's, and he ended up easily with an A in the course. Now, all of my conversations aren't quite that easy with students, but again, he sort of got the idea that this is a little bit different. I'm going to turn it over now to, sorry. I remember seeing this last year. It was pretty funny. And then I have one more slide. And that's just that as parents sort of learning to sit on our hands, because if we put our hands, as soon as you touch something, you put your hands in it, then you own it. And we want them to be sure to own it. So, again, with my daughter's mouse in the house, that was pretty easy to keep sitting on my hands on that one. So I'm going to turn it over to some of my colleagues, and we want to be sure that we have plenty of time for questions as well.
Hello, my name is Jay Sriram. I work at Cornerstone. Jan is the director of Cornerstone, the Learning Center. I'm the assistant director for academic programs within Cornerstone. Our academic programs team oversees or coordinates a lot of student support programs that are associated with courses. Like Jan mentioned, peer-led team learning, residential peer mentoring. All of these are different types of programs associated with courses. Let me walk you through our website a little bit. All our programs are, thank you. All our programs are designed from working very closely with the instructors of the courses, so they are embedded in the courses. And we promote proactive programming. So we don't offer any tutoring, one-on-one tutoring for students. All of these programs are proactive programs. Students can use them right from the beginning. We don't offer one-on-one tutoring for a reason. If we do offer one-on-one tutoring, and when we have done it in the past, students have always wanted to use it right before the exams. But we want to reverse it, so we are promoting proactive programming. All our programs are offered right from the second week of classes. And the two different programs we offer are peer-led team learning and residential peer mentoring. Hold on. Well, this is our website, cornerstone.worcester.edu, and you would want to hover over academic programs and you'll see a list of things. Then you go to types of academic programs, and we have a list of things. So walk-in services. There's no need to sign up ahead of time for these. Residential peer mentors actually hold sessions in 10 different residential colleges. In each residential college, there is one calculus mentor and one chemistry mentor. So they hold sessions almost every day, evenings, 7 to 10 p.m. or 8 to 10 p.m. and at different times, different days. So even if a student misses to go to one session, there is always another session held by a different mentor in a different res college. So there are 10 calc and 10 chemistry residential peer mentors. All walk-in services, no need to pre-register for these. And there's no specific agenda to these sessions. The students can go in, walk in with questions, or if they want to work on homework, or they want to walk in with a friend and use that time to study, I think that would work too. So the most challenge the students have as a freshman, what we hear from the students is that they don't know how to manage their time, at least most of them, because they're overcommitted, or their preferences are a little bit odd, their priorities are different. So we always advise students to schedule their study time. And RPM hours could be a good way to use their study time more efficiently, work with their peers, work with their friends, and talk to a mentor. All our mentors are upperclassmen who have taken these courses and who are rigorously trained. So very well trained. They do it at the same time as they go through the training. And we also get them back. They are returning mentors as well. And we also have help desks for physics. Help desks are located in Cornerstone. They are held in Cornerstone. Cornerstone is in the South 40, about 100 meters south of the underpass from Forsyth. So on the right side, that's where we are located. And we also have academic mentors. Academic mentoring sessions are also walk-in sessions. We offer academic mentoring sessions for a variety of courses: organic chemistry, psych stats, art history, Spanish. Did I say Spanish before? Okay. Spanish, and and business courses as well. Peer-led team learning. Peer-led team learning is a pre-registered course. There's a pre-registered program. There's a set agenda for each of those sessions. Students sign up to be in the peer-led team learning groups in the beginning of the semester. The application actually will open up on Monday, and they'll have a couple of days to sign up for this. Our mentors will actually go into calculus and chemistry classes to advertise this program. So have your students look out for these messages. So they'll have a couple of days to sign up for this. And each group, peer-led team learning group, will have about 8 to 10 students in it and one peer-led team leader. So the student is, again, has taken the course before, went through a rigorous training. They also are in a course to work on their course materials before they go in and lead these groups. So they have a lot of training before they do it. And the students don't give out, the leaders don't give out the answers to the students. The rationale behind it is the leaders will encourage the students to arrive at the answers on their own, and there are different ways to solving a problem, and we want the students to explore it on their own. And there's a set agenda. Unlike the walk-in services, they have a set of problems that they need to work on. They usually don't get to finish the problems because they have just a couple of hours, but that's when it's a good, RPMs are a good place to go and figure out the rest of the homework together with their peers. Again, look out for the application. It's going to be open on the 28th for calculus and chemistry. We have about 70 groups of calculus mentors and 70 groups of chemistry mentors. And we are the largest student employers on campus. We have about 170 student mentors working for Cornerstone. And we also offer postgraduate preparation. If you want, information is on our website as well. And get help with courses. If you go to this page, you'll see a list of all the courses that we offer. And if a student clicks on a specific course, it'll take to the calendar of events. So all of our events will be listed here by the end of the first week. All our mentors are just returning and scheduling their hours, so it's not completely populated yet, but by the end of the first week, they will all be populated. Well, like I said, like Jan said, it's a time of transition, and students are still figuring out what it is that they need, and the agency is on the students now when they come to college. Nobody is going to remind them to do things, so they have to put it on their calendar. They need to manage stuff, prioritize things. So we do offer non-academic support, non-course support, which is academic skills support. That's the page you're on here. And here is an academic skills assessment that we have on our page. It's like a checklist for the students to see what they are already doing and what they are not doing. For example, are they using a planner? Are they taking notes in class? Where are they sitting in class? How are they taking their notes? How are they processing that information? Because they should be interacting with their material more actively now, more than memorizing. What are the different types of problem-solving skills? Are they really thinking through than just memorizing? So that there's a list of questions here. So at the end of the assessment, they will get a report on how they did on the assessment. And if they fall below a specific score, they can send this assessment to one of our staff members, and we'll have a one-on-one consultation with the student. So the consultation will be more of talking them through the different things they need to do and how they can, if we think that they do need more one-on-one course support or more peer support, we'll send them to an academic mentor or a residential peer mentor. So we do have other things that we offer here based on the assessment. And there is some information on our website regarding study skills, time management, effective note-taking, so they can also browse through this information and figure it out on their own, or they can talk to one of us. So that's all we have now. So if you have any questions after you look at the website or at the end of this session, please let us know.
Thank you, Jay. So let me get back to this here. Just leave it there. My name is Rob Patterson, Director of the Writing Center. First, I want to say it's really exciting for me to stand here in this lecture hall. I started 20 years ago here as a freshman. I took chemistry in this room. In this room. I slept a lot right there. I did. I'm also a humanist, which means my largest classes have 12 students, so we don't teach in rooms like this. I'm wearing the lapel mic, which is kind of a, thing. If you leave here with just a couple of things, one of the things that I want you to remember is something that I want all of our students to learn very quickly, and that is that they're all writers. They may not like that fact, but they are all writers. I don't care what they're going to go into. If they want to communicate all their awesomeness and all their brilliance, they're going to be writing. So sooner or later, they all come through our doors. And we're happy about that. We like to work with them. When most people hear about what I do, they start talking to me about grammar and about all the horrible grammar mistakes that they hate. I'm not really a grammar person. That's not really what keeps me going day in and day out, doesn't get me out of bed. Or they start talking about, oh, you must really see some bad writing. Kids these days just can't write. If I had that kind of negative attitude, I couldn't do this job, right? Oh, really bad writing must come through your doors. Wonderful things come through our doors. We see wonderful things. We see wonderful writing. We see wonderful interactions between the writers who work in the Writing Center and the writers who come to the Writing Center. We get writing at all skill levels. We have strong writers who come in who realize I need to involve other people in my writing process because I'm writing for people, right? We have students who don't feel as confident about their writing. We have students who are confident about their writing, but they really shouldn't be. We get freshmen, we get seniors working on their senior theses, we get PhD students writing their dissertations, PhD recipients who are applying on the academic job market. We get junior faculty who are trying to publish their first books. We have an open floor plan, and so you may have a freshman, a faculty member, a graduate student, all sitting at different tables with different staff members, working on their writing. And it's a great place to work. For one, I don't have to grade papers. It's the worst part of the job. We do work on writing, but along the way, we work on their confidence, their resilience, and their self-awareness as scholars, as writers, and as human beings. To get out of their own heads and get out of the idea of, I need to figure out what my teacher wants to hear. That served them well up until now. But to think about their reader as an actual person who's going to maybe have a hard time understanding what they're saying, maybe have a critical response to it. And what we do is we respond as readers. We don't go through and mark up papers. We absolutely don't. We don't go through and proofread and edit and all of that. What we're doing is we're reading it and we'll say, okay, so here's what I think you're saying here. Here's what I think you're arguing. Is that what you thought you were arguing? No. Okay, let's try to bridge that gap. Or I'm following up until this point, and then you move to this other idea. Can you talk me through that a little bit? Usually they know, but it has to be on the page. It makes sense to them. Eventually, students will start to internalize the very questions that we ask them. So how do we do that? We do it one-on-one. 1 hour appointments where one of us sits down with a writer for a whole hour, we read their work, and they get to see how a reader responds. Where does a reader kind of, furl an eyebrow? Where does a reader say, ah? And in that moment, that's probably one of the few times they're actually going to get that kind of attention on their writing and feel like, wow, someone is actually putting this kind of attention into my writing and I see it. Because when their professors are grading it, they don't see that, right? They just get the grade and the comments back. In a way, it teaches them like they are writers, that their voice and their writing does matter. And that's how they can make a contribution. We respect them as writers. We're not evaluating or grading them. And our role is great because of that. We're coaches and allies. And we're helping them achieve what they want to achieve. Right? That's through empathy, through understanding that all writers struggle. And if they haven't struggled yet, they will. Maybe it has come naturally to them up until this point, but every writer in their development will come to a point where how they've been doing things just doesn't work anymore. I was under that illusion until I failed a paper my senior year here. And it was from the professor who had just sent me my admission to graduate school. And he was like, no. He then was my academic advisor as a grad student, and that same thing happened again when I was writing my dissertation. I got through it. I grew. I had to change my approach, and other people helped me through that. We engage them and their ideas. So we don't proofread or edit or do grammar. We respect them as scholars in the process of developing ideas and having to communicate those ideas to someone else. That is really hard to do. So we help them do the first part first, develop their ideas, then figure out how to communicate it to someone else. Oftentimes when we're writing, we're trying to do both things at the same time. And that's where you type, delete, type, delete, type, delete. Because you have two voices in your head. The long game. We work with students the whole time they're here. We may see them when they're in writing one freshman year. We may see them again sophomore year when they're in another class that they're writing for. We may see them junior year when they're applying for that summer internship and they have to write a cover letter. We see them senior year when they're applying for graduate school, law school, medical school, jobs. Jobs. We like those, right? Get them off your couch. And we also know that in a single session, we get to work with them and help them out. But when we see them repeatedly, and almost every student comes back over and over and over. Some of them stay here for grad school, so we'll see them over 10 years. We get to build long-term relationships with them, and all the research shows that the more good relationships students have with people on campus, the better their chances of success. Someone who really knows them and them as a person, not just as a grade or a number. So they come to share their successes with us. We're often the first stop when they get a paper back, when they get into medical school or law school, PhD students, they defend their dissertation and walk straight over to us to celebrate with us. And that's all we really need, that and just a little bit of a paycheck. So really little. So the nuts and bolts, we're located in the main library. So almost every student passes by us once a day. We're right in the middle there. We work primarily by appointment. We have an online scheduling system. And they're 1 hour one-on-one sessions. We tend to fill up in advance. We do over 4,000 sessions a year. We do have a wait list, and students can put themselves on the wait list. We are able to accommodate a lot of people on the wait list because of last-minute cancellations, or sometimes we're able to add more staff on, and of course, no-shows, which really irritate me, but it helps the people on the wait list, right? And actually this year, thanks to help from our friends at Cornerstone, where we shifted some resources around, we're going to be able to offer over 5,000 sessions. Every single one of those will be used. Our staff consists of professional consultants who have PhDs and master's degrees. They also teach here. Many of them have been working in the Writing Center since I was an undergraduate. We also have graduate fellows across the departments who use this as an opportunity for their professional development. We teach them our approach, which is very different than teaching in a classroom. And they end up really adding a very helpful addition to our Writing Center. And then we have undergraduate peer tutors. It's harder to become an undergraduate peer tutor than it is to become a professor here, because they have to apply, they have to do interviews, they have to do writing samples, they have to have recommendations. They then have to take a course with me, they have to do an internship, they have to learn the theory and the pedagogy, and after all of that, we might not hire them. The ones that do get hired end up working with us sometimes for the next 3 years if they started as freshmen or sophomores. And they are absolutely brilliant. So no matter who the students are working with, they're going to be well taken care of. And everyone is there for the student. This isn't one of those things where they're interrupting us. Like, I welcome that. I have other things that I'm supposed to be doing, but if a student comes in and says, can you work with me on this? I will drop whatever I am doing, because that's the stuff I want to procrastinate. I don't want to write a report for my boss. I don't. Right? I don't want to have to go over the budget and all these other things. I'll work with that student, and then I have an excuse. I'll say, I report to the provost. Provost, I'm sorry I didn't get that to you because I was working with a student, and we're all about students here. And he's like, yeah, we're all about students here. But it's a conversation. That's what we're having. Years ago, when I was interviewing for this job, one of my old professors was on the search committee, and he asked a question that went like this. The students who are coming in, they're getting smarter. That's what we're told. Right? The scores are higher, it's more competitive to get in. Why do we keep having to increase the amount of help that we're giving them? And I kind of took issue with this question because he was implying that we were helping them in a way that was remedial, right? But my argument was this. When faculty are working on a project, when they're putting together an article or a book, what do? They walk to their colleagues down the hall and talk to them about their ideas. They say, can you take a look at this? They attend conferences to share works in progress, to get feedback. They spend a lot of money and resources to travel to these conferences in places like Iceland and Hawaii and whatever else. And they also, even when they submit a manuscript, it gets sent to peer reviewers who then give feedback. What we're doing is exactly what faculty get for their writing. We're providing that service to undergraduates and graduates, hopefully teaching them that they should be seeking out this kind of feedback along the way. It was the only time I ever saw that professor in 20 years kind of lean back and nod, like not with a smile, just a nod. And he was pleased and corrected at the same time. So here's what I ask of you. You don't need to remember the nuts and bolts. All I need you to do is when you hear that your student is working on a paper, you just remind them that there is a writing center. And even if it's last minute, they should still just come in and talk to us. We might be able to work them in. Oftentimes we'll have several weeks that are completely booked. So if they tell you that, just go talk to them. Because we may have just gotten a phone call of someone saying, I can't come in the next hour. And we're more than happy to help someone in that point, because we don't want our time to be wasted. We want to be helping students. I have a first grader and a 3-year-old. I won't talk about the 3-year-old because, you know. But the first grader brought home this worksheet the other day. And I was like, what do you need to do with this? I don't know. When does it need to go back? I don't know. Like, all right, we're going to talk about whose job it is to know those things. Now, I know he's a first grader. It's tough. But this is when they need to take care of things for themselves, right? So in the past, I've had parents ask me, how do I make an appointment? Please don't make their appointments for them. I mean, you know, some of them are like applying to medical school and their parents are asking, how do I make an appointment for them to come to work on their application? Like, not ready for medical school if you can't make your own appointment. But I'm sure many of you have helped your students with their writing in the past. You don't have to do that anymore. That's a good thing, right? We'll do that for them. I don't say it's a free service because you've already paid for it, which I think is a little bit more motivating for you to turn them over to us. You're already paying us to do this. Let us actually do it. All right? So I think we can take some questions now.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
Two things. So it resonated with me that you mentioned the remedial part, that they might have this connotation.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there's so many students in here that, just have never had to ask for extra help in their writing.
Mm-hmm.
So are they getting a message in the freshman English course? Because I just thought that remedial comment is very common.
Mm-hmm.
The hardest part, I think, for a lot of these students would be the first time they walk through that door. And how do you approach it that instead of waiting for them to get a D or an F, which
Mm-hmm.
adds to their transitional stress,
Yeah.
about calling in ahead of time. And then these kids are, also struggling with time management. I'm thinking for my kid to plan ahead a week ahead to make that appointment just isn't really going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's good
Yeah.
information about
No, I mean, we get a lot of freshmen who come in. I mean, they will come in and one of us will say, can I help you? And they just come up and put the paper in front of us and sit down, like. And they're like, well, you weren't doing anything. I'm like, well, it was the budget, so who cares about that? Let me help you. No, but often the first time there is that, but we're able to usually accommodate someone, again, because of a no-show or a last-minute cancellation. So we try to work with them, and actually now we have a little bit more resources. But they are bombarded with this from their writing instructors, their advisors, their WUSAs, their RAs. What really helps is when they very quickly start to see that other students are using these resources. The upperclassmen, some of the freshmen who get the message, and when they hear I'm going to the writing center. This is why it's great that we have peer tutors, and Cornerstone has a lot of students who are working for them, because when they hear that their peers work at these places and offer these services, that really helps as well. So we have lots of ways to get that message to students. Sometimes it is after that C or D, and that's okay.
And then my other question was, and I'd asked my son to get this Fouryear advisor, and it was a great appointment, but I said, is this person, is their job 100% to be an advisor, or are they a faculty member and they have a certain number of advisees? So I was just wondering, what is the background of Fouryear advisors? How are they chosen? What is their training for advising undergraduate freshmen?
Would you like me to answer that?
So all of the students come in with a 4-year advisor, and that's an individual that stays with them for the full 4 years. All 4 year. So I'm not a 4-year advisor. Actually, I used to be, but I'm not a 4-year advisor. I'm a major advisor. So they'll end up having typically 2 advisors: a 4-year advisor who's with them for the 4 years, and then once they declare a major, then they will also have a major advisor who is typically a faculty, obviously a faculty member in the department. All of the 4-year advisors go through training. Not only do they just go through training once, but every year there are multiple training sessions that they go to make sure, again, that everybody's giving consistent messages, everybody understands the curriculum, et cetera, et cetera. So there is training for all four-year advisors. Four-year advisors can be administrators, they can be faculty members, they can be staff members at the university, all of whom are given that consistent training.
Yeah. Just as an example, I'm a four-year advisor.
Yep.
I have about 5 in each year, but my primary job is in the Writing Center. But I feel like in that way we can give students service that builds on everybody's specialties. We have groups of advisors that share information and talk to each other, call each other if it's something that we're not familiar with. There's a whole community that we're able to draw on. So
So it wouldn't matter if, let's say, you had someone who's going to be an anthropology major, someone else who's going to be a physics major, that there would be things in place to catch
Mhm.
that if the freshman
Yep.
didn't know they needed this prerequisite course in order to
Yeah.
make this all happen for years. It should be taught.
Absolutely.
right.
And that's what that training is all about.
So, in the unlikely situation that a student may not feel that their match is great with this four-year advisor, like, what would they do? Like, how would they communicate that? Who would they communicate to? And what's sort of, like, how does that work?
So if for some reason they feel that that advisor is not a good match, and that could be an uncomfortable, obviously, conversation to have with that advisor, right? I don't like you. That if they're in arts and sciences, or if they're in engineering, or if they're in business, then they can go talk to the dean of students for the particular school, and that can easily be changed. The same thing is true of major advisors as well, that all of the departments have an undergraduate coordinator, and so the students would just go to that person and say, please do not have Dr. Duchek as my advisor. I can't stand her anymore. I need somebody else. So, of course, it's never happened.
The reason I'm asking is, I know there's a lot of emphasis on, them being much more self-advocates. And
Sure.
So, at the same time, it sounds like there's sort of this structure in place, and so they kind of have to learn to navigate, when do they speak up versus when do they just have to say, oh, well, that's the way it is, And so I just was curious, in the event that, a question was bounced back to a parent,
There's nothing to prevent you also from contacting us as well, obviously, if you have any sort of concerns. But having been here over 30 years, I can tell you that your students do quickly learn how to speak up to us. But there's nothing to prevent you to, if you're concerned about something, to contact us. Absolutely, yeah.
But I think that's the idea of advocating. Their four-year advisors are actually their number one advocates. So that's the place to go when I don't know who to talk to about X, or I'm having this issue with a professor. Can you help me figure out how to communicate with them? I need to communicate with this office about this issue that I'm having. What's the best way to go about that? And I've even helped some of my advisees craft emails to faculty to deal with tricky situations and so on. So their advisors really are those people, but you can go kind of into the college office if things aren't really clicking, but that's so rare. It really is. Yeah.
I have a question. You spoke a lot with the Cornerstone about math, science help. I wondered about humanities help. You noted, I think, under academic mentor, there was somebody who specialized in art history.
Yes.
Can you just talk a little bit more about humanities, because there was a lot more focus on talent and
Absolutely. We have just started supporting humanities courses as well. So we have an academic mentor who works closely with the art history professor, who will be holding these academic mentoring sessions 2 hours per week, starting from the second week of classes. So it's not yet on our calendar, but by the end of first week, the session should be on our calendar. So we offer support for art history, 3 business courses like microeconomics, accounting, QBA, quantitative business, Spanish, psych science. Is that humanity?
I think your point is well taken, that a lot of our support is for STEM-related courses. The reason that is the case is because so many incoming students are taking those courses. So roughly about 50% I know I'm shouting. Roughly about 50% of students who come into Washington University, when they come in, say that they want to be pre-med. And so because, introductory chemistry this fall will have about 800 students. And so that's why, when you think obviously about the student ratio. And the humanities, so, Rob can tell you, Rob teaches courses that it's obvious it's a much smaller student faculty ratio. And so, again, remember a major resource for your students in their courses are the faculty teaching those courses and the assistants to the faculty. So that's where that sort of support should come from.
Yeah.
But it's a fair question.
One minor bit of pushback. Why, for example, only Spanish and not other languages?
At this point, we may roll out more. Again, it's about the numbers, right? So we look at the numbers and we look at the number of students who are taking whatever course. And now, if y'all want to talk to the provost, or for me and be the vice chancellor for students, and tell her that we all need more resources and we need more money. So it really is about numbers and resources and balancing that.
But going back to Jan's point, in language courses, again, they're small classes, and the TAs, these are grad students who are very, very good at working with undergraduates. And so those are really where students need to go. In humanities courses, again, the faculty person, that's who's leading this discussion that's happening, and that's who they should be seeing. And really, in most humanities courses, the majority of what they're doing is writing. So we are, like, the Writing Center is kind of the de facto humanities help anyway, whereas outside the humanities, it's a lot of exams, and there's writing there too, but there aren't that many exams in humanities.
And our supports are built based on demand as well. And we have heard a lot of students wanting Spanish support, so we created it. But for Greek example, there are only 10 students who are taking Greek. And then if we have one mentor spending 2 hours every week for an entire semester, that's not a good ROI. So our supports are mostly built based on the demand. So, and I understand for art history, the reason why we developed support for art history is we heard a lot of students saying how you learn art history is very different from how you learn chemistry or math. So the strategies are very different. So we talk to the instructor about what strategy. They all fare well, but by the time they get the techniques, it's already midterm. So we want to support the student through that process of learning how to learn different disciplines. So we are rolling it out this semester. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, thank you.
I just had a question about the writing for this students in engineering. I feel like it's a bit confused about when they take sort of a minority class, or there's some kind of placement exam. I heard if they got a 36 on the ACT, they were exempt, and if they had a 35, they weren't. And then the technical writing, so I
Right.
think,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand, like, how do they get their writing help if they're not taking courses
Yeah.
in the humanities?
So in terms of what engineering students have to take, that's a great question for their advisor in engineering. Engineering is the only school that doesn't require 100% of its freshmen to take Writing 1.
Why?
Because of engineering faculty's votes and decisions and so on. So they're kind of the exception. Everyone else has to take Writing 1. There's some grumbling about that, but they will be writing. They will take technical writing. They're going to take classes in arts and sciences. They have to take humanities classes to graduate. They have to take social science classes to graduate. And they're going to end up writing. So they're going to get there, but in terms of the exact mechanism, that's something that, because it's a constantly shifting thing, I don't want to give you an outdated answer. But yes, there are some engineering students who don't have to take Writing 1.
I know I know many of you have to leave. If you have to leave, please feel free to leave, and we're happy to keep fielding questions as well.
And can students, if they come to you early on, when they establish a rapport with somebody that's helping them, can they request them again by name in subsequent visits, or do they just when they apply online, do they get whoever?
They're more than welcome to work with the same person over and over once they find that person, and many of them do. But then sometimes they make a decision. If that person's full, then they work with someone else. Yeah. They can book up to 4 weeks out. We don't let them book farther in advance because those who make an appointment for December don't show up. So.
Again, we'll field questions individually, but I feel like I need to dismiss everyone. So thank you very much for coming to the session. We hope it's helpful, and contact us anytime.